The government is like a drunk father, which is like one day they will come, drink too much, they will scream at you, probably slap you around a little bit, whatever, and you're really scared, right? You will do whatever they tell you to do, right? Then a few months later, they will come back and stop slapping you, and then they will be like, oh my god, you're my bacha, you're so nice, whatever. You will feel great, right? But then this drunk father will also make it look like they're doing you a favor. So earlier, because they were beating you and now they aren't, you should be thankful. That is the attitude that the government is going to have for GST implementation. 2024, Modi ji lost majority. He got 240 seats. Now it's a coalition government. Now there are pressures and Rahul Gandhi has become more powerful, more popular. Other opposition leaders have become more powerful and popular. A lot of regional parties are gaining more power. And BJP is on a decline. So now उनकी दादागिरी चल नहीं रही है. So they were like, अच्छा, okay, fine. Like now we will reduce the tax rates and actually do a GST 2.0 reform. So from 4 slabs, they have gone down to 3 slabs. GST rate cut bonanza. What is cheaper and dearer? Check full list of items in 0%, 5%, 8% and 40% slab. Now why are there 4 slabs? Who knows? I mean 2 would have done, but no. Government is like 4 slabs. 0% completely exempt, 5%, 18% and 40%. Now this 40% is a very strange slab. It is for sinful goods, as they call it. Which is if you're rich and you're buying rich things, then better pay more tax. That is basically it. 40%. Okay. It's bizarre how this will work, but essential food items will remain tax-free, whilst various everyday food products and drinks, including butter, ghee, dry nuts, condensed milk, sausages, meat, sugar, confectionery, jam, jellies, tender coconut water, namkeen, 20-liter bottled drinking water, fruit pulp, juice, milk-based beverages, ice cream, pastries, blah, blah, blah. Reduction to 5% from 18%. Now, friends, take this with a gigantic bucket of salt, because if you think that immediately things are going to become cheaper in the market, I don't think you understand how economics works or how reality works, okay? Here is how what is going to happen. Right now, let's say you are getting a 10 rupees ka chips packet. Right? Usme there is already a GST component that is included in it. The 10 rupees packet will remain the 10 rupees packet. There will be an increase in profit margin for the company, which is going to either, make more profits, reduce the tax rate. It is not going to increase the amount of chips that you get in a packet. Once a product is set, MRP set, then the company can manipulate the prices according to taxation and profit margin. Right now, their profit margins will go up. You will pay the same amount. Just understand that, okay? But having said that, there would be differences in other things. Like, for example, if you're going to buy a car, right? Let's go to that one. Larger vehicles exceeding 1200cc for petrol and 1500cc for diesel shall incur 40% tax as announced. Smaller cars apparently will now get 18%. So if you are going to buy a smaller car, then 1200cc for petrol and 1500cc. Also, if it's less than, I believe, 4 meters long, which is not the SUV category. India is one of the only countries that has a compact SUV category. The reason is GST. Because if you are less than 4 meter and less engine, then you pay less taxes. That is also the reason why a lot of SUVs or pseudo SUVs as we call it have engine CC written as 1498cc. Because under 1500cc, you go into a different slab, so the car becomes cheaper. It's weird. Again, see, this is something that the industry has adapted itself to based on this nonsense that is happening. Also, motorcycles, by the way, up to 350cc will now attract 18% GST. If it is above 350cc motorcycles, then it is 40%. It is sinful if you have more engine power. Personal yachts, aircrafts and racing cars. If you're planning to buy a personal plane or a yacht or a racing car, 40% tax lagega. Okay. The thing though is, even though it says 40%, it might seem like a jump because these were earlier in the 28% category. Now, actually, it has become cheaper because remember that chart? Remember that chart that I showed you? Look at this again. 28% SUV plus 22%, which is 50% total SUV, according to earlier GST rates. Now, the news is that they're going to charge 40%, but no cess, which means SUVs are going to become cheaper by 10%. Correct. So, because there is no cess in existence now, it will become cheaper. Although, a bit of a caveat here, this is what happened earlier also, which is when they introduce GST or they do reforms. Earlier, they're like, oh, no cess required. But in the next 3 months, you might see a cess come in again. You might see like these rates becoming bizarre again. So if you are planning to buy a car, I think now is a good time to do it. This will be implemented from 22nd September. So I'm guessing you will have to talk to the dealers, etc., whatever. The fun thing right now that is happening, friends, is that a lot of people were waiting for this GST announcement. So last month, since Modi ji made that big announcement, the sales have dropped massively. So now there would be an immense desperation to sell things in the market, which have gone down in value. So yeah, बहुत discount मिलेगा friends. I think yeah मिलेगा शायद, देख लो. If you are a good negotiator, I'm a shit negotiator. I don't understand things, but you might be. So just think. Now they're going to project this whole thing as if they're doing you a favor. Actually, they aren't. They messed it up to begin with. They were beating you around to begin with. They were paying more tax to begin with, and they never give you the reason why. Why is caramel popcorn and this reason and whatever nonsense logic they have been putting since 2017 and making you give like a shit ton of tax? Like this 1500cc, 1200cc. Ye kya hai? Why? It's so arbitrary. But that is what it is. This good and simple tax is going to continue to be bullshit. It is going to continue to be complicated. So just wait for it. Again, going back to our story of 2017, the first thing that happened when the 2017 tax was implemented was Modi ji pressed a giant button. Not kidding. Pranab Mukherjee was the president. Look it up. There was a picture of Modi ji pressing a giant button. So when he pressed the button, everybody was like, oh my God, liberation. Oh my God, reform. Oh my God, one tax, one market, all the things. Khushi ki leher everywhere. Then people went to the GST website and it crashed. Yes. For months it was crashing. For months people were confused how to file it. For months people were like, what to do? Because here's the thing with GST. Again, I don't want it to get too complicated, but basically here is what is happening. There is an input tax and an output tax. It is a value added tax, which means if you are making, let's say, tomato sauce, right? So first you grow tomatoes, then there will be a tax on that, right? So the person who is buying the tomatoes will pay tax on that, right? But this person has already paid some tax. Now they will crush it. I don't know how tomato sauce is actually made, but anyway, they crush it and they make like goo out of it, right? The goo, they put it in like a thing, a polythene, and then they sell it to the next person for a higher price. But the higher price also has a tax on it. So now this person will pay that tax and this person will like, wait, I've already paid tax on this. You've already paid tax on this. So now there will be an input tax credit. So they will remove the already paid tax from this tax. So the goo and the polythene will have less tax. And this person who is buying that can take input credit and reduce their tax component. They should get a refund. Okay. Then this goo will go to factory for bottling. Then person who is bottling is paying tax on bottles and also this goo, tomato goo, and also like other things that it is putting inside, which is preservatives, etc., labor, all the things. But then they will also take an input credit tax from this person because there is so much tax that has already been paid. So they should not pay that much. They should only pay tax on the value that has been added in the manufacturing process. So you understand. That is how GST works. It's so freaking complicated, and it is supposed to be, because otherwise it's unfair. But it's difficult to file these things. It is difficult to get reforms, which is difficult to hire CS to do all of this. It's difficult for people to understand also, because did you see the chart? Imagine doing this for every component. Like, can you imagine doing this for a car? Can you imagine doing this for a pizza? Can you imagine doing this for tractors and fertilizers and whatever? So every component will have a different tax rate. Usko fir input tax credit करके इधर उधर से फिर final product, then the final consumer is paying this much tax, then उसमें से input. Confusing, very complicated, and this makes it worse. So yeah, so implementation is very complicated. The website was very bad. It wasn't working properly. People were confused. Now, I don't know if the website is better. From the looks of it, people still complain about it all the time. There was a time 2 years ago when the website crashed again and there was a giant revolt. The problem here, friendos, is that small businesses will suffer because of this. And they have always suffered because of this, because this is compliance. What that means is that if you want to run a business in India, you need to know all of these things. You need to understand all of these things, and you need to implement all of these things in time. And if you don't do it, the government will come and screw you over. You will have to give penalties and, all sorts of things. Bad things will happen to you and tera business band ho jayega. Modi ji keeps saying ease of doing business, but this is not ease of doing business. That's a big complaint that I keep hearing from people. But on a meta level, I think goods and service tax is amazing. I like it as a concept. I think it needs to exist. Just that the implementation so far has been extremely confusing and garbage. Now you must be wondering, why is it so complicated? Why? What is the reason? Why do they do this? My running theory is that because they don't want you to know. Also because they need to give work to CS. But mostly they want to make it complicated because they don't want you to understand the taxation system. Yeah. They don't want you to understand the budgets and how the government is spending the money, but they also don't want you to understand how it's earning the money also, so that you continue to feel grateful, right? It is invisible taxation in your face. The indirect tax is always an invisible tax. Income tax, you feel like you're paying because you have to directly pay it. Return file karna padta hai. GST as a consumer is an invisible tax. You don't even look at it. The manufacturer will be paying it on your behalf, but technically you are paying the manufacturer so that they pay on your behalf. So it is invisible tax, and that is why they want it to be complicated. If it's simple, then what good is it? It also gives them many levers to operate, right? So for example, if there is a footwear company that is going to donate to a particular political party that shall remain unnamed with an instrument called the electoral bond, which is now illegal, but maybe it isn't, let's assume. If a footwear company wants to give donations, then they can lobby. And then this GST council will reduce or increase the rates based on that, add a cess, remove a cess, do whatever. It gives extreme leverage to people in power to mess with business owners and also states. If you are an opposition state which is manufacturing a particular product which is amazing and it is competing with a state which is ruled by your guy like Gujarat, then you can always screw with the rates. You tax the thing that state is producing on a higher slab versus what your state is producing. It's like a khakra versus fafda situation, right? Khakra will be taxed less. Khakra versus paratha situation. Does that make sense? Yeah. Khakra versus paratha situation where paratha, because it is coming from a non-BJP state, will have a higher tax versus khakra, which is coming from a BJP state, will have a, right? Humanities one is saying idli. I can say the same about cream buns. So, fun thing, bun has a tax rate. Put cream on it, cream has a different tax rate. Cream bun together shall have a different tax rate. That is one thing that a clip had gone viral a few years ago about this big conglomerate in Chennai, I believe, which makes confectionery goods, was complaining to Nirmala Sitharaman to her face and saying, listen, this is ridiculous. Like when you hear it, can you hear it? Madam, Nirmala Tai, can you hear it? It is ridiculous. And then Nirmala ma'am summoned him and made him apologize. That really happened. Poor guy, he came and he apologized. He's like, I'm so sorry, I was critical about this complicated mess that I have to deal with on a day-to-day basis and which does not allow me to do my business properly. I'm so sorry, Nirmala ma'am. I'm so sorry, Modi ji. Yeah, sad life, sad life. But yeah, that's what GST is. I hope it gave you a little more clarity than you had before. This is no nonsense GST talk that I'm giving you right now. So I hope you enjoyed that.